media, Moms for Liberty activists are using booklooks.com. And it's essentially a cliff notes for books.
Yeah.
So you go through without even having to read the book. I'm going to just hold it up so our audience can see what it looks like. This is the one for All Boys Aren't Blue, which is one of the books Moms for Liberty has pushed
Everyone
to have
should go and see the
Sure.
content in this book. That's such a good idea.
And so what
Joy.
happens is you can do keyword searches and find certain keywords.
Like
you can find sure.
or anal or
you can,
dildo.
You can find all sorts
those types
of keywords.
of words. But like,
wait, hold on, wait. Let me finish my question.
Okay,
Then
great,
you can answer.
sure.
I'm going to give you time to answer, but I got to ask you first.
No, yeah. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content. The dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Let's do a back room.
Excuse me.
Let's put a curtain up in the library
First
like
of all,
they used
hold
to
on.
do
One moment.
in the video stores. Remember when we were little and you would go to the video store?
The books that Moms for Liberty.
And they put those
the books that Moms for Liberty.
Videos with pornography.
I know that I've seen.
We could just do that in the public library.
Tapes.
A few moments later.
She liked to say the word dildo and said that a lot. But the fact is, George M. Johnson, this is a book about George M. Johnson. Some of these books are autobiographical, some of them are not. Some of the key books that have been banned, Lori Halls Anderson's Speak, Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky.
My kids read them.
They have similar themes in them. Some of them are sexual, some of them are not. But they are experiential. They're real books. And kids see themselves in these books. It's disingenuous to call it all about sex. Kids know all about sex. Kids have always known all about sex.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about probably one of the most frustrating interviews or debates that I've ever seen in my life. And this is why I honestly feel like debating people in the mainstream liberal media is a waste of time, right? And especially debating somebody like Joy Reid, because every single time she brings somebody on the show that she disagrees with, she never lets them talk. She never lets them make their point. And the reason why is because once that person starts to make their point and to present their argument, Joy Reid and the narrative that is pushed on MSNBC will be destroyed, right? And that's what she did with Christopher Rufo when they had a debate probably about a year or two ago about critical race theory being pushed in schools. It was one of the most frustrating debates that I've ever seen in my life. I wouldn't even call it a debate. I would just call it Joy Reid ducking and running, right? Ducking and running by talking over her guest. And that is what she's going to do here in this interview or debate with the Moms for Liberty co-founder, Tiffany Justice, who came on the show to discuss the imaginary book bans that the left continues to claim is happening in school because you have parents with common sense that want to remove books from school that are not for children, meaning they should not be in school in the first place. Okay, you can't ban a book that shouldn't be in school in the first place, okay? The books aren't being banned. They're just being removed from a place that they should not be in the first place. Apparently, this is a very difficult concept for the left to grasp, okay? And because you have parents removing these books, you have people like Joy Reid that, again, going on mainstream liberal media and claiming that conservative parents are banning books, right? They're trying to ban the dictionary, okay? This is what they're saying. But the reality is that they're trying to ban explicit adult content that is actively being pushed on children in schools to promote a woke agenda. So I want to react to this debate because, again, it is probably one of the most frustrating debates that I've ever seen in my life. What's actually more frustrating than the debate is the comment section on this video, because I can't believe that we actually have people in this country that believe the left when it comes to this book banning nonsense and can't see the clear and obvious ploy to push explicit adult content on children in school. So I want to get into it, but before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, BioTrust. Were you like thousands of Americans this holiday season and ate just a little bit too much? If your New Year's resolution is around weight control, you can rest easy knowing that the rest of America is with you on this journey. Nearly half of Americans say that their New Year's resolution is weight control, fitness, or physical health, making it by far the most popular resolution for New Year's. There is a magical pill only for weight management control that I recommend and use. It helps control appetite, manage weight, reduce fat, control cravings, and increase energy. It essentially uses a unique nutrient that is linked to reducing body fat, body weight, and reduce weight circumference while increasing lean muscle mass. Plus, there are no artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives to hold you back on your health journey. This solution, along with proper exercise and diet, has helped me in my fitness journey this holiday season by not gaining any weight despite the holiday food, but actually losing weight throughout the holidays. Try it today for a whopping 51% off this New Year's. Plus, receive free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, 2 free new ebooks titled Top 10 Foods That Burn Belly Fat and Top 8 Exercises to Reduce Belly Fat, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free shipping. Order this today before the offer ends by going to trimwithpatriot.com. That's trimwithpatriot.com.
LGBTQ parents and parents of LGBTQ kids, do they have parental rights?
Every parent, Joy. Every parent means every parent has the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children.
And liberal parents? Do liberal parents have those rights as well?
All parents, sure.
So let me point you to some statistics, because the question becomes then who gets to decide what all kids get to read? The Washington Post took a look at about 1,000+ book challenges that were filed, and they found that they were filed nationwide by just 11 people. Each of these people brought 10 or more challenges against books in their school district. Together, these serial filers constituted 6% of all book challengers, but they were responsible for 60% of filings. In Florida, Tampa Bay Times, they found that of roughly 1,100 complaints recorded in Florida since July 2022, we're talking about more than 700 just from 2 counties, Escambia in the Western Panhandle and Clay County. Together, those are less than 3% of the public school enrollment, 600 of those complaints, 2 people. Why should 13 people get to decide what books tens of thousands of children get to read?
Well, I'm thinking it's probably because those 13 people saw what some of the content was in the books. I mean, explicit, graphic, sexual content. And I'm happy to talk about some of that content if you'd like to.
Well, this is the question again. The books that are being banned, I want to give you just
No books are being banned.
No, hold on a second.
Well, no, Joy, but I want to be clear. No one's banning books. Write the book, print the book, publish the book, put the book in the public library, sell the book, right? We're talking about a public school library. Children don't have unfettered access to the internet at school. I did a FOIA records request, and I wanted to see what kinds of internet sites are banned in schools, if we're going to talk about banning, right? And the subject matter in the books that moms are concerned about are the same things that kids don't have access to on the internet. So it just feels very hypocritical, right? No, why is no one out there protesting for, free the internet in schools?
Let me.
Yeah, because they know that that's a losing argument, right? It's hard to come up here and to say, well, we think that kids should have access to adult websites, right? I think everybody agrees that no, kids should not have access to adult websites. But then when it comes to this conversation of books and putting adult content in books, now the left, well, that's different, right? And what they do is that they play off people's ignorance and they try to reframe the conversation instead of telling people that, yeah, this is adult content. This is the same type of content that you would find on various adult websites on the internet. No, they try to make it seem like parents are trying to ban holes, right? Like books that, almost every kid has read, okay? And that's just simply not the case. It's just simply not the case. We all agree that banning adult websites is good, right? Kids should not have access to that. Nobody's getting upset about banning websites, right? You're not hearing a campaign about, oh my God, these people are trying to ban websites, okay? Because we know that if you say something like that, that's silly. That's a very silly accusation to make because everybody knows that you're not banning websites. What you're doing is that you are blocking access to websites that kids shouldn't get access to in the first place. This is no different when it comes to these books, okay? Adult content can be on a website. It can be on a book. All of it should be banned in school for children. But Joyless Reid is going to skate past and not address the clear and obvious hypocrisy of the fact that the left aren't boohoo-whining and crying about websites being banned because she knows how stupid that would sound for her to say that, right? So, again, she's not really going to address, again, the clear and obvious hypocrisy, the double standard from the left here, boohoo-whining and complaining about adult content being banned when it comes to books in school, but yet they don't have anything to say about adult content being banned in school when it comes to websites. Again, it's amazing how that works.
Let me give you an example of some of the books that have been removed from shelves as a result of the activities of organizations like Moms for Liberty.
We're not going to talk like Moms for Liberty. We're going to talk specifically Moms for Liberty.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy to have this conversation with you, Joy.
Absolutely.
But we're going to be specific about the actions of Moms for Liberty chapters.
Oh, 100%.
Because I can't be possibly responsible for every single parent in America.
But your organization is the lead. You're the leading organization that's doing this. You have chapters all over the country, and other organizations are following your lead. And PEN America has listed, they have posted the list of books that have been removed from shelves as a result of these activities. Let me just read you a couple of them. Anne Frank's A Diary of a Young Girl. Mouse, which is a book about the Holocaust, a graphic novel. Genderqueer, a memoir. All Boys Aren't Blue. Beloved, Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. Ruby Bridges Goes to School. Slaughterhouse-Five, The Color Purple, Forever by Judy Blume. I could go on. These are books that are not only popular, in some cases are classics. Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. Let me give you an example.
Well, I'd like to answer your question.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just mentioned a list of books. And so Moms for Liberty doesn't have like a national book list. There was never a list of books that we put out and said, parents, be concerned about these books, right? We didn't do it because we want our parents to be effective advocates. So when moms are going into the libraries and the schools, when they're seeing what their children have access to, when they go to speak to the superintendent or the principal, they have accurate information, right? They're
and where are
effective
they getting
advocates.
their information from?
You can just go online to a catalog in your children's library, and you can see what
without
books are
reading
available.
the books. What is one moment? What is booklooks.com?
I'm aware of a website called booklooks.com where parents can go and see some of the books that other parents are concerned about.
Booklooks.com has been used in Florida extensively in counties like, I used to live in Broward County. I lived there for 14 years.
Okay.
In counties like Broward, counties like Clay, counties like Escambia, Moms for Liberty activists are using booklooks.com. And it's essentially a Cliff Notes for books.
Yeah.
So you go through without even having to read the book. I'm going to just hold it up so our audience can see what it looks like. This is the one for All Boys Aren't Blue, which is one of the books Moms for Liberty has pushed
Everyone
to have
should
removed.
go and see the content in this book. That's such a good idea.
And so what
Joy.
happens is you can do keyword searches and find certain keywords.
Like
you can find
or anal. Or dildo.
You can find
those,
all sorts
those types
of keywords.
Of words. But like,
wait, hold on, wait. Let me finish my question.
Okay,
Then
great,
you can answer.
sure.
I'm going to give you time to answer, but I got to ask you first.
No, yeah, I got the question.
And so what you find is the keywords that you find, the N-word, anything, words like you just used, then you'll get out of context passages from the book, and then based on that, Moms for Liberty members are going to places like Broward County School Board meetings, reading out of context passages from these books, and then demanding that the school board remove them.
So what's
that is the way.
Yeah.
The question I'm asking is, what is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read? What is your expertise?
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so
Sure.
I'm going to answer
Please
for
do.
you. In what context is a strap-on dildo acceptable for public school? Just
Facts, right? Because the argument that Joy Reid is trying to present here is an argument that says that, well, you need to read the whole context of the book, right? You need to read the whole book to know that talking about, anal sex or dildos or, sexual assault and all of these themes that are extremely adult, right? Themes, right? Also, you talk about books like Genderqueer, like having actual explicit photos, okay, and graphics of sexual acts. Oh, no, you need to read the whole book to determine whether or not it's actually appropriate for children. Again, in what world do you need to read the whole book to know whether or not genderqueer and the graphics of sexually explicit activities is appropriate for children? Again, this is a stupid game that Joy Reid is playing. And that's why I say that this interview is so frustrating to me, because according to this stupid logic that is being used by Joy Reid, I need to watch the whole movie before determining whether or not a movie is appropriate for children, even though we know that the movie has an explicit sex scene in it where you have nudity, you have people actually having sex. No, you need to watch the whole thing before you can say whether or not it's actually appropriate for a 5-year-old to watch. Right? Again, that logic does not apply when it comes to movies, when it comes to website, when it comes to any other subject. But when it comes to this, though, that's the logic here. Right? You need to read Genderqueer before you can determine whether or not children should read it, right? Don't mind the clear and explicit sexual acts that, people can easily open up the book and see that's in the book. Nah, don't worry about that. You need to read the whole thing before you can have enough expertise to say whether or not it should be in schools. Again, this is crazy. This is nonsense.
That's my question to you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No, wait, we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me questions.
Sure.
I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
Well, who is the main character? What's the name of the main character in All Boys Are Blue?
You're asking me right now.
You just gave me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert.
It's the gentleman.
Hold on. Who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe, is his first name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is.
You're asking me to remember the name of an author.
You
the
just
name of the
remembered
author
very
doesn't
specific names.
joy.
Here's my question.
We're talking about
Here's my question.
You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer your
Great.
question.
I would love to.
No, she's not. Right? She's not going to answer the question. What she's doing is the same thing that she always does, is that instead of answering the question, because she knows she's not going to answer the question, she can't answer the question of in what context does it make it okay for children to read a book about all of these themes that she outlined. There is no right answer to that question, right? So what she's going to do is she's going to filibuster and try to bring up a whole bunch of things that are irrelevant to the key question that she's asking here. And this is why I said that this is the most frustrating interview/debate that I've ever seen.
Hear that?
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation.
Yeah, but the whole point of the interview is for you to try to discredit this woman and the concerns that people like her have, that parents have over explicit adult content in school. So yeah, you do need to answer the question of in what context is it okay to talk about strap-ons and dildos that children should read, and this is appropriate for them to take in this type of information. Again, she don't want to answer that question. She don't want to answer that question because answering that question would reveal what this whole agenda is about, right? And that is essentially pushing a woke agenda on children, and they will do that through any means necessary, including pushing sexual themes on children, right? This is what they're doing.
Okay,
great.
So what I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert in this book,
I don't have to be an expert to know that dildos aren't appropriate for public school.
Facts. She doesn't have to be an expert. Again, she's trying to discredit her, okay, as a figure that doesn't have the knowledge to know that talking about dildos is not appropriate for children, instead of focusing on the fact that, hey, most people would agree, most society would agree, if you're not a lunatic, right, that, hey, yeah, that's not appropriate for children to talk about.
This
let's get real.
Is a full context story, as you said, of the author's experience. Why is it your right or a Moms for Liberty activist's right to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author, why doesn't a liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it?
Well, they do. All they got to do is just go to the store, go to Amazon and buy the book. If they want to have their kid read about that type of stuff, which again, I think is just, it blows my mind. Any parent that wants to purposely have their child read about that, I mean, hey, that's on them. But the conversation really is about which books are appropriate for all kids to be exposed to, that a vast majority of parents would agree, okay, yes, this content is appropriate for kids to be exposed to. That's what the debate is about, right? And again, if you poll most parents, should kids have access to explicit adult content, images, okay, on the computer, websites, a vast majority of them would say no, okay? If you ask them, should kids have access to explicit adult sexual content in books, I guarantee you a vast majority of them would say no, okay? That's what the debate is about. Debate is not about, oh, should we be banning LGBTQ books? Well, again, if the books are sexually graphic and they have explicit images in them and they explicitly talk about sex, which a lot of these LGBTQ books do, then the answer to that question is yes. But that's where the debate comes in, right? Because again, there's not many LGBTQ books that don't explicitly talk about sex, okay? And see, that's the problem that they're running into here.
You're right to say they can't.
So again, we're talking about incest and pedophilia.
And
Boy, you
each
said you'd
parent,
answer. Joy, you said
one
you'd let me
moment, no.
answer.
Each parent has to decide what is appropriate for their child to read. So I want you to answer. I'm going to ask you
let's
one more
have
time.
Right.
What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story? Why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means that they have either been raped by a family member, they've experienced
and your proof of that is what?
You just said that
What's
if
your
a child
proof of
feels
that?
seen by this story.
What I'm
saying, Joy,
you're now making
And ding, 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 ding. That's what I was telling you guys about the whole, LGBTQ books thing, right? Because that's the way they're framing it. These LGBTQ books or so-called LGBTQ books have extremely graphic and sexual themes. So when Joy Reid comes out here and makes statements like, oh, well, you're trying to ban books that these kids feel seen in, right? I gotta really question, Joy Reid, what do you mean by that? Okay? How in the world can you sit here and say a kid can identify with a book in which you have kids being, subject to violent sexual acts? You think that's appropriate for a child to read about and to learn about in school? I think if that's something that a child is going to learn about, they should learn about it from their parents. That is an extremely sensitive topic that only should be discussed with parents. That's not something they should be talking about and learning about in school. And if a child has been subject to that type of sexual abuse, yeah, a book is not the remedy, right? That's not how you fix that. They need to go see a therapist. The police should be called, right? There should be a whole investigation. There should be a whole lot more to solving that problem than having a kid read a book, right? I'm just saying what Joy Reid here is arguing is absolutely insane. It really is. But despite the dishonest framing from Joy Reid, nobody's trying to take away a parent's right to buy that kid that book and allow them to read that book if that's what they want to do. Again, I got questions about that parent. And I also, again, have questions about Joy Reid and this idea that LGBTQ kids can identify, or that because they're LGBTQ, they identify with sexual abuse of children. That's literally what she's saying, right? She's basically saying that LGBTQ kids feel seen by this book because it has instances of sexual abuse. That's literally her argument. And when called out on the fact that that's essentially what she's implying, that's what she's saying, she's trying to backtrack because she realizes she just stepped in a hole. But what this mom really should be doing here, what this person really should be doing is going back to the question of, Joy, in what context is it okay for kids to learn about these types of sexually explicit themes and be exposed to this content? The answer to that question, the real answer, if Joy Reid was an honest actor, which she's not, is she would say, well, if they're learning about LGBTQ, and if she says that, that exposes the agenda, right? That exposes what it is. Well, we think it should be allowed because it's LGBTQ. We think it should be allowed because it's woke. We think it should be allowed because it goes along with the left-wing agenda, right? That's what this really comes down to. That's exactly what it's about. That's exactly what it's about. They don't care about the actual content. Everything is allowed as long as it's under the guise of LGBTQ or if it's pushing a left-wing agenda. That's why this is so sick, and this is the most insidious thing I've ever seen in my life, because that's literally what it's about. It is about pushing a left-wing agenda. Because if you take out the left-wing agenda and you just frame it for what it is, adult explicit content, nobody agrees with this. But once you throw the guise of what is LGBTQ on it, all of a sudden everything goes, right? You should just be allowed to let kids read anything and see anything and to watch anything and to take in any type of content that we all would agree is inappropriate if it did not have the label of LGBTQ on it, if it was not pushing a left-wing agenda. And that's what frustrates me about these people.
Assumptions
No,
about
Joy, but if a child has been, we should do a lot better than put a book on a library
Now you're literally
shelf.
creating
We
a
need to
story
give-
behind a child that you don't know.
You are creating a story around a child that you don't know because you're assuming that just because a child is LGBTQ, that they identify with that. They identify with these things in the book because the book is an LGBTQ book. That is literally the excuse that you're using to say that this is okay. Things that otherwise would not be okay are okay simply because it's LGBTQ. Joy Reid is a whole clown, bro. Whole clown.
Let me show you a form. This is a form that can be obtained in Broward County, Florida.
Okay.
I'm going to show it to the audience, and then I'm going to show it to you.
Can I see it?
Yeah, please. I'm going to hand it to you.
Thank you so much.
It's called the opt-out form.
Okay.
An opt-out form would allow any parent, because you said you are in favor of parental rights.
I am.
It would allow any parent to opt out of their child being able to take books out of the library without their parents' permission.
Okay.
So that Moms for Liberty, why not advocate that every school in America have an opt-out form so that a parent who doesn't want their child to access a book like All Boys Aren't Blue,
right,
that they can make that choice? Because then each parent, including a liberal parent, a black parent, a parent who wants their child to read a book about African-American history, then they get their
we want
rights.
children to read books about
Why not just
African-American
opt
history,
out for yourself rather than tell other parents what they can and cannot?
First
have
of
their
all,
children
I
read?
think what you're talking about here is a wonderful step in the right direction. We should be having conversations about this. This is about local control. A lot of these decisions are made at the local school board level, and that's where these decisions should be made. And there should be vibrant conversations about what's happening in our public schools and what kids have access to. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content, the dildos, the rape, the
I'm sorry.
Let's do
I'm so sorry.
Let's do a back room.
Excuse me.
Let's put a curtain up in the library
First
like
of all,
they used
hold
to
on.
do.
One moment.
in the video
One moment.
stores. Remember
The
when we were
books that
little
Moms
and you
for
would go to the
Liberty-
video
the
store?
You see how she's freaking out? You see what she's doing? She's not letting her actually make the point that what they're really trying to do is just to ban books with graphic sexual content. She doesn't want her to make that point, because if that's what she focuses on, Joy Reid doesn't have a counter argument. So she's trying to now panic, okay? And she's trying to stop this woman from being able to talk and to deflect and to change the actual subject because she doesn't want to engage with this. Again, this is extremely frustrating. Extremely frustrating.
Books that Moms for
And they
Liberty.
put those
the
books,
books that Moms for
videos
Liberty.
with pornography
I know that you. I've
We
seen.
could just do that in
I
the
have
public
seen
library.
tapes of
Does
what
that
Moms for
sound
Liberty does,
appropriate?
and you all go into school board meetings
Joy,
and you
this
read
is a
graphic stuff.
disingenuous conversation.
No, it's not.
There's America used to understand that there's something
Beloved,
called age-appropriate content.
Right, and here's my
We have
question again.
ratings on movies.
Again.
What she should do, if I was her, I would say, Joy, yes or no. I'm not answering any more questions. I'm done with this. Answer the question. Are you okay with porn in schools? Yes or no? And I don't want to hear it. No, I don't want to hear anything else. Are you okay with pornographic books in school? Yes or no? Just answer the question. Do you think it's okay for kids to have access to books that have explicit images of kids performing sexual acts on each other? Yes or no? Just answer the question. I don't want to hear anything else. Don't ask me no more questions. Okay? Because that's all she's doing. She's running away from the actual real core topic and argument that is being made from these parents on why these books should not be in school. She's trying to focus on everything else except that. That's what I would do. She refuses to engage with the core argument. I would not answer any more questions until she answers that. And if she refuses to, I'm getting up and I'm walking off. I'm done with this. That's how you deal with people like her. Because she's going to continue to do this ducking and this running without actually really wanting to have the real argument because she can't win it.
Ruby Bridges Goes to School is on the list of books that Moms for Liberty has attempted to have removed.
Absolutely not.
It absolutely is. Let me ask about the people who are making the decision for their parents, because
you see how she just continues to go on to the next thing, right? She don't really want to talk about the core subject matter, which is why we're not going to finish this interview, right? I'm not going to keep reacting to this because it's going to take too long, but you can guess she never actually answers the question of in what context is it okay for kids to be exposed to this type of adult and explicit material. She never answered that question. She literally ducked it. She ran away from it, right? And that's what frustrates me about this type of stuff. She does that every single time. She doesn't want to answer the real questions, and she wants to continue to bombard people with questions to try to discredit them and to not actually engage with the core argument, an argument that she knows she will lose. Right? She does this every single time. But again, the core argument here is, okay, kids should not be exposed to sexually adult explicit content. That's the core argument. That's it. Now, I'm not saying I agree with every single book that Moms for Liberty or any of these groups want to ban. I think some of the stuff I think is kind of over the top. And I don't think it helps them to give, these examples of books that are being removed that, a lot of people are saying, look, you might be being a little bit too picky, right? I don't necessarily agree with all of them, but the core reasoning behind what they're doing, we're talking about some of these books have been deemed LGBTQ is literally because they're sexually explicit, right? And they're graphic and sexual in nature. And that is what these people have a problem with. And I don't have a problem with them trying to rid these schools of filth that children should not be exposed to in the first place. But again, you can't argue with the left on this subject because they don't argue in an honest way. This is not an honest argument. Joy Reid is not trying to actually really engage with the core argument or the core subject because she knows she'll lose. So instead, she asks a bunch of stupid questions that doesn't have anything to do with what these parents are actually really concerned about. And then you get nowhere, right? And that's essentially how Joy Reid conducts her show. That's exactly what she wants, okay? She came here to push an agenda rather than to actually have an honest debate and conversation about what's being pushed on kids in school. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.